Arnold Denker was born in 1914 in New York. When he entered the chess scene, he faced one of the strongest arrays of world-class players the U.S. has ever produced. Reshevsky, Fine, Kashdan, Horowitz, Dake, and others were making America the top in the early Olympiad. He won the 1944 U.S. Championship with one of the more impressive performances in history, with 14 wins, 0 losses, and 3 draws. He then defended the title successfully against Hermann Steiner of Los Angeles in an East versus West challenge match. He never lost in match play to a human player and beat Fine, Reshevsky, and Kivitz. He was the first grandmaster to lose to a computer. He has been for years one of the top-ranking chess officers in the world as zonal president for FIDE. His articles in Chess Life and Chess Review have entertained and informed readers for over half a century, continuing right up to the present. The Denker Tournament of High School Champions, held during the U.S. Open, is one of his proudest achievements. I have been honored twice by attending this prestigious event, as well as by meeting this great man. Welcome to another video annotation at TeachMeChess.com. We are going to examine the greatest game Arnold Denker has ever played. Play begins with my favorite move, pawn to d4, and continues with basic development, knight to f6, pawn to c4, pawn to e6, knight to c3, and bishop to b4. And here the opening is set. Reuben Fine has committed to the Nimzo Indian. Pawn to e3, and again, play continues with just basic development. And white castles. Castling here allows black to win a pawn through exchanging the knights. Today, this line is well known to Nimzo Indian players, but in 1944, this was an impressive idea for Denker to implement. Knight takes e3, they exchange the knights. Pawn takes knight, bishop takes pawn, and the pawn is won. Rook to b1, bishop to a5. I can imagine Reuben Fine was quite happy with a pawn, seeing as how he was such a strong endgame player. Bishop to a3, and the gambit has been played. Denker must push hard for an attack. d6. This allows the castle. And pawn to c5. A great idea. Right from the start, Denker begins breaking down Fine's position. Even though Denker is down the pawn, this position is equal. Black castles away from the dynamic center. Pawn takes d6, and white creates an open file as well as a weak pawn on d6. Pawn recaptures, and pawn to e4. When material is not your advantage, you need something else to give you the edge. With this move, Denker is saying, I will have the strong center. Rook to e8. This move gets the rook away from the bishop's X-ray attack. Pawn to e5. This is a very strong move, but Denker probably would have been better had he developed more. Perhaps queen to c2 could have brought something nice to the table. Pawn takes pawn, and the knight recaptures. Play is very dynamic here, but black's advantage is slowly growing. He is still up a pawn, so Denker must act quickly before piece exchanges occur. Queen to g5 with the mate threat, and pawn to g3. This creates light-squared weaknesses around the white king. Pawn to g6, queen to a4, queen to d8, and rook f to c1, claiming the open file. Denker is playing exactly what he should. but he has not broken through yet. Pawn to b5, and Reuben Fine has actually blinked before move 20. This is simply giving back the material and intensely activating the light-squared bishop. Better for Fine was simply to develop his knight to a6. Bishop takes b5, and queen to d5. Fine has a good idea, it just isn't forcing. So white plays his best defense. Pawn to f3. Black plays bishop to b6, trying to get play against the d4 weakness. Rook to c5. This is an impressive exchange sacrifice. Its greatness comes from how it kills Fine's strongest piece, the dark-squared bishop. Bishop takes rook. Bishop takes bishop. Rook f8. Bishop c4. An extraordinary move, thrashing black just a little bit more. Black plays bishop to c6. White takes the queen. Black takes the queen. And white takes the rook. And the final blow is delivered. Here, Reuben Fine resigns against Arnold Denker.